I know I'm on the record. I hate it when people are murdered over money. I hate it. I hate it so much.
I hate the title of this episode, which is Basketball Murder for Money. Can you say his name? His name is Lorenzen Wright.
Thank you so much.
Jesus Christ. Not you. You know,
No,
them.
The royal Jesus
And not
Christ.
you. If it doesn't apply to you, it's not about you.
Hi, Jillian Benzavalli.
Hi, Patrick Hines.
Hey, fam. We would love you to join our Facebook group. There's so much happening. I did a watch party the other night for
what?
Episode 1 of Love is One on the
God.
Patreon.
You mean hate above all?
It was wild to do a watch because everyone was like reacting to it in real time.
It's all in the chat, right?
It's all in the chat. So I'm going to be doing these in the Facebook group. We might be moving it to a Discord. We'll see. But another reason to join the Facebook group.
Awesome.
There's like over 50,000 people in there making friends, talking about the episodes, sharing their dog pictures. It's just a great place to go.
Yeah.
It's True Crime Obsessed podcast discussion group. Just go find it.
You got to answer some questions to be let in. So.
Yeah, but it's easy.
Yeah, they're easy. I mean, you know the answer because it's about
Because it's about
you.
Right. Also, just join us on the Patreon. We're doing so many fun events over there. We got Drag Bingo coming up again. We've got our Patreon happy hour coming up. We're doing a magic show.
Oh my God.
What else? There's another thing happening I can't even remember.
We got a lot going on. And like ad-free versions of these episodes. And then that's where we do all of our series like Love Has Won. We're doing Natalia Grace. We do like all the wild crimes.
Oh my God.
Everything that's like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 episodes.
We're doing Twin Flames soon.
We're doing Twin Flames.
It's going to be wild. So there's over 400 full ad-free bonus apps that you can download and binge the second you sign up. It's patreon.com/truecrimeobsessed.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today?
So this is the murder of Lorenzen Wright. It is an episode of that show, Rich and Shameless, that we've done before.
Yes.
And this is the murder of Lorenzen Wright.
We checked all his friends from here to Atlanta, Mississippi, everywhere, so I don't have a clue.
Deborah Marion is talking about her son, Lorenzen Wright. The last time anyone in her family saw the 6'11" former NBA player was Sunday night. Marion says Wright was at his ex-wife's home in Collierville between 10 and 11. When the ex woke up, he was gone. Their car still in the driveway.
That weekend, and he needed to be home for his sister's baby shower. He never showed up. I called him all that day. Never answered the phone, never returned my call. I'm talking the whole 3 days, and he didn't call nobody back.
It opens on March 15th, 2022. We're in the Shelby County Criminal Court in Memphis. And Lorenzen's mom, a woman named Deborah, we're seeing the end. They're kind of starting at the end.
Yeah.
And she's just on the stand and she's sobbing. And she's telling us about her son. He was a famous basketball player. He started in college. He went to the NBA. And like most importantly, for like the purposes of this episode, he made a lot of money.
Yeah. Now, quick note. Sometimes they call her Deborah.
Yes.
But I actually tracked down this testimony on YouTube because I knew she would have to introduce herself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's actually incredibly moving to watch. But she says Deborah.
Okay.
So if she said it on the stand.
Then we're saying it.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Now, she also says on the stand that she knew something was wrong when her son didn't return her call.
Right.
Because he always returned her call. And then it's an instant cutaway to the 911 call.
Absolutely.
Where we just hear a person say, hello, and then an ambush of gunfire.
Right. So then we have our opening credits. So now we go back to July 24th, 2010. Lorenzen has been missing for 5 days. And he was last seen at his ex-wife's home between like 10 or 11 p.m. And when his ex woke up, he was gone. His car is still in the driveway.
And no one has seen him. His mom is saying, we've checked with all of his friends from Atlanta to Mississippi. Nobody has a clue.
Let me say something about Deborah Marion.
Yeah.
She is with us the entire time.
Yes.
She is a force to be reckoned with. There's footage of her from years ago, but she's sitting here with us now. She's got a lot of thoughts and feelings. She's awesome.
Yes.
Do not mess with Deborah. And I'm talking to someone in particular, and we'll get to her in a moment.
I'm giving her a good old-fashioned hero bell.
She's amazing.
She is amazing. But we also learn from a news report.
The last time anyone in her family saw the 6'11" former NBA player was Sunday night. Marion says Wright was at his ex-wife's home in Collierville between 10 and 11. When the ex woke up, he was gone. Their car still in the driveway.
6'11".
That's almost 7 feet.
7 feet tall. It would be hard for a person that big to go missing.
Right. And also super famous and well loved and known in the community.
Like he's from the sports world, and that's a name that even I know. Even I've heard the name Lorenzen Wright.
Of course. Of course. So the weekend he went missing, too, he was supposed to be at his sister's baby shower. Like, this is a family guy. He's very close to the people in his life. Like, he would never not show up to this, and he would never not call or answer a phone call.
The mom says he was like a gentle giant. She says he was always there for me when I needed him. Somebody says at another point, like down the road, family first. It was like family, then basketball.
Right. Well, let's talk about his basketball career a little bit because we meet John, the sports journalist, and he was at the Baseball Hall of Fame working on a different story. That's not a verbal typo. He was at the Baseball Hall of Fame, and he starts getting these texts about Lorenzen Wright.
Can I just take a quick break here to tell you that many years ago, I worked at the W in Hoboken. I was a hotel concierge. Hoboken is like a city in New Jersey. That's where basketball... Oh, no, I'm thinking about baseball. Never mind. That's where baseball was invented.
But we were just talking about baseball.
Oh, we were? Oh,
That's
right.
why I just said we're at the Baseball Hall of Fame. What is that, Cooperstown?
We can't do a sports doc and have me not get very confused.
We got to focus here.
We got to focus. Yeah, but there's an intersection in the city of Hoboken. It's like a town of Hoboken where like the kids who invented baseball and like it's like you can go and see like where first, second, and third base was.
Wow.
They invented it there.
Cool.
Frank
Is
Sinatra
that right?
lived there too. Well, you think I'm lying?
Sometimes you do that.
That's true.
Sometimes you try to reel me in, hook, line, and sinker.
At some point, also in this documentary, somebody says that Lorenzen Wright was the Michael Jordan of NBA of like Major League Basketball, and I'm like, wasn't Michael Jordan the Michael Jordan of that?
They probably just meant like the new Michael Jordan.
Okay, all right. Well, I was a little bit like, but then I was confused as to what sport Michael Jordan played.
He
and I
did
had to
play
look it up.
baseball for a while.
He did?
He did.
Was he on like the Olympic Dream Team or something?
No. He just like switched careers. Some people think that there's like some ulterior motives going on there.
When I make my true crime documentary about the Tonys, I'm not going to confuse you. You know what I mean? I'm going to know we need to streamline. We're
not going to start talking about the Golden Globes.
Right. Or like the Obies, which are the off-Broadway awards.
I'd watch a documentary about the Obies.
Me too, actually. That would be amazing.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So John is at the Baseball Hall of Fame working on something totally different.
Yes.
And he starts getting all these text messages about Lorenzen Wright. And he's like, wait, what? Like, how is he missing?
Because what they're saying, not only is he enormous, like it'd be like, I imagine hide and seek with this guy. Like he's not climbing into the dryer.
He wins every time.
You know? No, he loses every time.
Well, I thought because he is so tall, he could find anybody.
Right. But now
you're not like hiding behind a tree with
imagine
Lorenzen
this
Wright.
Man trying to hide behind a couch. Imagine it right now.
No, he probably let you win. He was that nice of a guy.
I'm trying to imagine him crawling into the dryer now. It's not going to work.
It's not working.
You know what I mean?
That's also just don't do that.
But also don't do that.
That's a bad idea.
Oh, God. It's like that episode of Punky Brewster where that kid crawled into the refrigerator and Alan almost died.
Alan?
You don't know this. This is like the most traumatizing episode of anything from the 80s.
Really?
Yes. Alan, fam, back me up on get into the group if you know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Alan crawls into a refrigerator, but it's one that doesn't.
Was it a very special episode of Punky Brewster?
It really was. And it was like they were playing hide and seek, and then he couldn't get out, and he passed out, and then he almost died.
How are you not able to get out of a refrigerator?
Because it's one of the old ones from the 50s that only opens from the outside. What? Do you not know about this?
I thought it was this little suction one where you just like press.
No.
It was like an ice box from the Honeymooners.
It was like an ice box. Yes, it was like an ice box.
So what happened?
They got him out. Teacher Mike got him out just in time, and everyone felt real bad because Alan was misbehaving at school that day, and he got yelled at. And then Mike, the teacher, thought like, "Oh my God!" Then the kid died the same, but then he didn't.
Wow.
Whoa, they opened.
Now I don't have to watch the episode.
Oh my God! They opened the refrigerator, and he's passed out inside.
Oh come on,
yes. Aaron, show us.
He was in there for what, 20 minutes?
I don't know, but he couldn't breathe, Julianne. It's a scarring moment.
Okay, I'm sorry. I feel like people are being re-traumatized, and I'm laughing about it, and I apologize for that.
But anyway, this guy from this sports journalist, which is a job,
it's like
I know, look,
a major job.
I know it is. It's just like, oh my God, it's like there's a baseball Hall of Fame. It's a game. It was invented at that intersection in New Jersey.
People
love it.
Don't talk about it.
But I know. But he's saying, how could Lorenzen Wright be missing?
Lorenzen Wright, who was sort of the least likely figure to go missing just because he was so public and charismatic. He was 34 years old and had so many friends and everybody knew where he was all the time. It seemed so out of character, and the fact that it was in Memphis, where this guy was literally the prince of the city.
He calls him the Prince of the City.
Exactly. Like, people always have eyes on this guy because everyone loves him.
Yeah. So Lorenzen Wright was born November 4th, 1975, Scorpio. And his mom is like, he was a little country boy. He was born in Oxford, Mississippi.
Yeah, and like just a good kid.
Good kid. And by 9th grade, his basketball talents, everyone's like, okay, he's going to be a superstar.
His mom tells the story about like waking up one morning. It's so good. She's like woken up to the sound of somebody like bouncing a ball in the driveway.
It's still dark out. She's like, what is that? She doesn't even know what the sound is of a basketball bouncing.
She sees Lorenzen. She's like, Lorenzen!
And she's like, what are you doing?
What on
And
earth
he's
is
like,
that?
you told me to focus, so I'm focusing. And she's like, you know what? You got me.
Yeah.
Because she said, if you want to do this basketball thing, like, then do it.
And he's like, Mom, I got to get up before the sun so I can practice shooting my hoops or whatever.
and there she is eating her words, being like, wow,
Yeah.
I told him to do it. But she's like, I can't get mad at him.
No.
I told him to focus. What is more focus than dribbling a basketball before sunrise?
It was like me with the trombone in 6th grade.
Absolutely. Someone says he was born to play basketball. You were born to play trombone for those 2 seconds because I've never heard you talk about your trombone career.
I did play the trombone, but I lost a lot of interest when I realized you never get the melody. It's never like jingle bells on the trombone. It's always like bum, 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 bum.
Which is very valuable. It's very important. The
is.
song wouldn't exist without you, but to play, I can understand you being
I didn't want to be a supporting player, GP. I wanted to be the
Tell
star.
me about it. Tell me about it. That is a very cute story, which
Thank you
I love.
so much.
Not yours. I mean, Deborah's about Lorenzen's. I love that story.
Mine is, in fact, the opposite of cute.
It's just a story.
It's just
Hers was a cute, great, heartwarming story. Yours was just a story.
Mine was just a story.
A beginning, middle, and an end.
Oh, my God.
We meet Dr. Bill Atkins. He's a pastor.
Yes.
And he says that Lorenzen came from a super rural background, but then he came to Memphis because it was what he calls a hub of basketball talent.
He moves there. He moves to Memphis to go to Booker T. Washington High School. He's 6'10". He's described as springy and very slim, but he had the goods.
Yeah, and Michael, his friend, is like,
Me and Lorenzen Wright were best friends growing up as kids. He was a big goofball growing up, and then the clumsiness started going away. I would say after his freshman year at the University of Memphis, that's when Dick Vitale really started saying his name, like, Lorenzen Wright, baby. We knew at that moment he was definitely going to make it to the NBA.
he grew into himself and that clumsiness went away. And then it's like, oh,
yes,
he's a superstar. And now to be fair, like just because you're tall doesn't mean you can also play basketball.
Right.
Luckily for Lorenzen, he had the passion, the fire, the talent, and the height. He had it all.
Have you met Natalie's friend Ollie?
Of course. I love Ollie.
He's easily as tall as Lorenzen,
He's very
right?
tall.
And
Ollie's not playing basketball.
No,
Again, with all the love of my heart.
I call him Tolly. I am always told that people stop him on the street and ask to take a picture with him.
He is very tall. And he wears it great.
He does wear. I love him so much. Natalie
awesome.
will always he's British, so Natalie will take him home for holidays.
Yeah.
But Natalie,
his name's Ollie, so yeah.
Exactly. Natalie rents the smallest cars. Like to save money, Natalie rents the smallest cars they can find, and I always imagine them driving on the highway
with his knees up to his chin.
And his head sticking out the sunroof.
Yeah.
Like that's how
Ollie.
Ollie gets home.
It's
Tolly.
He's a tall drink of water.
I love
God
him.
bless him.
But we learned that after high school, he goes to the University of Memphis, and we learn about a guy named Dick Vitale.
Dick Vitale
Who is that?
He's a super famous commentator. He was the voice of college basketball on ESPN for 41 years.
He loved to go, Lorenzen Wright, baby!
Well, his catchphrase, I looked him up today. His catchphrase is, "It's awesome, baby!" So there was actually a video game made about him called Dick Vitale's Awesome Baby College Hoops. And then he was like a voice in other basketball video games. Like he was like ubiquitous. But he's a legend. So all of Lorenzen's friends are like, this guy just would not stop saying his name and pointing out the things he's doing. So for this legend to be talking about Lorenzen Wright, it was a really, really big deal because this guy's seen it all.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, superstar.
And that's how they knew that Lorenzen was going on to the NBA.
Right. So 1996, it's the NBA draft.
The 1996 NBA draft, which is a seminal draft. It's Allen Iverson, it's Steve Nash, it's Kobe Bryant, and Lorenzen Wright is picked ahead of Kobe Bryant and absolutely justified that selection.
He was drafted ahead of Kobe Bryant and should have been, because here's what the career Lorenzen goes on to have. He said it was an absolutely justified selection. Lorenzen played more than 13 years, around 800 games, and was a reliable, durable performer for more than a decade. He earned more than $55 million in contracts.
He's in every sense of the word, an A-list NBA player.
Yeah.
True superstar. And he was also really consistent on the court, which is something coaches are looking for. It's not like, oh, we had a great game. Every game's a great game.
Yes.
Every game's an awesome game. He just he was truly born to do this.
It's so amazing. That's what the best thing for me about doing the sports documentaries is when you meet somebody who is just doing what they were meant to be doing,
right,
and they're good at it and they love it.
Yeah.
It's so inspiring to see that. When we were doing the Malice at the Palace episode,
Yeah.
the way those guys talked about being on a team, I remember getting so jazzed about the idea of like team sports and camaraderie. And
it's a beautiful thing.
because it's not about being an individual. It's why like when like the shitty like basketball, like Dennis Rodman or whatever, just wants to be famous for being himself.
Right.
And then you see the actual, and I'm not saying Dennis Rodman was a bad basketball player. I have no idea. But like when you hear the actual people talk about what it's like to work together as a team to accomplish a goal, it's like that to me is the most inspiring.
And that's why I think even if you're not watching football every week during football season, like a football movie like Rudy, or like watching like Friday Night Lights, like, oh, Rudy. Oh, God. Don't you love Rudy? I've been waiting for this my whole life. 5 foot nothing, 100 nothing.
Can I tell you, when I was in the marching band playing the trombone, we went on a band trip, and the one fun thing we did was we saw Rudy in the movie theater.
Were you crying?
Rudy.
They all put their jerseys.
I know.
And then Jon Favreau, he's so little.
Yeah.
Oh, God, Rudy. If you want a good, like, feel-good cry of just like, oh.
If everyone could do me a solid and stop telling me that I look like Sean Astin from Lord of the Rings, I'd really appreciate it.
Sean
Thank you
Astin's
so
handsome.
much. Okay, moving on.
Okay. Hey, Sean, my DMs are open, I guess. He's a good guy. I'm just saying, because you are mad for some reason.
I don't want to be told I look like Elton John or the lead singer of the Bare Naked Ladies. These are not like people they're not the Marilyn Monroes of the male musical world.
Yeah,
you know
like you all wear glasses.
Right.
Cool hot take.
Yeah.
Is a former NBA player. They weren't on the same team, but they were friends. And so like they came up together, they competed against each other, and he's just like recognizing how great Lorenzen is. But he also says, like, and he gets very real here, he's like,
when he came to the NBA, money changes your area code, your zip code, your bank account. It changes a lot of stuff for you.
He would buy cars like some other people would buy shirts to go on their backs.
$55 million is a lot of money. And he was like, they say Lorenzen was super generous, but he also loved to get things for himself. They say he bought cars the way some people bought shirts.
Right. He loved Rottweilers. And I'm like, girl, same.
I know. He would fly to Germany for like specific dogs. He spent over $300,000 on dogs.
Right. And I'm like, I know that like rescue dogs aren't everyone's path in life or whatever, but like if you can.
Yes.
That would be great.
Yes. This is where they say he was the Michael Jordan of NBA entourages. To which I said, wasn't Michael Jordan the Michael Jordan of NBA entourages?
I missed that. So I have no.
I had to write it down, and then I go down a rabbit hole of making sure that Michael Jordan actually was from the NBA.
And you didn't, sweetheart. And you didn't see that he played baseball for a little bit?
Nope, I missed all of that. But didn't he he made like a cartoon movie?
Space Jam.
Yeah. Which like the website is still live and active, and it's like from 1996 or whatever.
Yeah, he made Space Jam.
Okay.
Please respect Space Jam.
You're absolutely right.
But Lorenzen was giving money away to his family, his friends. He was super proud of that. And he took care of all of them. We see this a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like fancy cars and nice apartments. They were going to Shaq's birthday party.
I mean, this is where I made because my best friend Michael is telling us all of this. And like, Michael, like, yes, he would get to stay in fancy hotels whenever he traveled with Lorenzen. He got to go to Shaq's birthday party. And I was
that
like,
must have been a blowout.
Even I would want to go to Shaq's birthday party.
Come
but
on.
like, if you love basketball and you're in that world and you're friends with this like super famous guy who's taking you to Shaq's birthday party,
Shaq?
I'm like, this would be like me getting like my best friend is a backup singer for the Indigo Girls.
Yes.
And I get to be backstage at fucking Lilith Fair.
And here's the thing, and this is like all the respect in the world that Shaq deserves, but like at Shaq's birthday party, Shaq might be the least impressive person there because everyone wants to go to Shaq's birthday party. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're going to Shaq's birthday party, like who else is there?
Do you think the Indigo Girls are there?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that? I mean, I bet you
Shaq
would
is
love
very
them.
impressive. I'm just saying.
Oh,
you know what
yeah.
I mean?
Yes,
Like that's a kind of party where it's like, who's not at Shaq's party, right?
I know.
Back then.
But yeah, like he knows how lucky he is to have Lorenzen in his life.
He says he's like, we thought we hit the lottery.
100%.
And Lorenzen was like, yup. Like, cool.
Yep.
So let's go back to 2010, right? Lorenzen has been missing for 7 days. And we learned that like sometimes this would happen. Like he would
I hate that. I hate it when people are like, yeah, sometimes like my super rich friend would just disappear for a couple days.
But he would say, I'm going for a long weekend.
It's
Like
just
he
like-
never did this.
Well, I'm like when you have money like that, you have a target on your back, and you need to always let your tell your mom where you are. You know what I mean?
The friends are saying he did exactly that.
Yeah.
That's
All right.
and that's why this is suspicious.
Then I'm less mad at him now.
Okay, good. Don't be mad at him at all. Because his friends are like, yeah, he would go away for the weekend, but everyone would know.
Yes.
He'd tell someone where he was going. Or if he wanted to lay low, he'd tell his mom, he'd tell somebody, right?
You just gotta.
But he didn't, like, that didn't happen. So that's how they know this is not good.
And now we see his ex-wife, Shara, and like a TV news interview.
Yeah.
Remember, the last time he was seen was at her house, and she says,
He was fine.
he's fine now, and I'm not gonna believe anything other than that he's fine now.
There's nothing alarming. Also, nothing to see here.
No.
He had no enemies. He was so well liked. Like, let's end
And
this
also,
interview.
like, he has 7 kids.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we'll get into their relationship in a little bit.
Yeah.
So Darren Goods is here. He's a retired Memphis police officer, and he's working the Lorenzen Wright case.
Yeah.
So July 18th, 2010, this is the night Lorenzen disappeared. And now we're back to this truly heartbreaking 911 call from the top of the episode.
And Darren tells us it was shortly after midnight that the call came in. It came into the Germantown dispatchers. So yeah, this is one where we just hear the gunshots, but the dispatch never actually sends a call out to the cops.
And you hear gunshots and you hear someone so clearly in distress.
Yep, and we hear the dispatcher saying, like, I'm just hearing gunshots. I'm just hearing gunshots.
Yeah, that's a red flag.
But
Like,
we never learn where this phone call is coming from. We never get the act like, oh, we were able to trace the call. And we know this phone belonged to whoever.
Right, because it says, like, the cops never dispatched anyone, right? And so they track the call and they learn, like, oh, it's outside our jurisdiction, so they can't do anything. And I'm like, cool. Can you tell someone whose jurisdiction it's in?
But then also, this is confusing because they say the dispatchers saw that it was outside of our jurisdiction, but the actual police from Germantown are like, nope, that was actually within our jurisdiction.
They screwed it up big time no matter what.
And everyone's just trying to cover their tracks.
But my thing is just moving forward, general note, if it's not in your jurisdiction, before you fucking throw your hands up and say, I don't want to deal with it, can you make the jurisdiction aware that there's an issue?
Especially when
Do you know
there's
what I mean?
gunshots.
Pick up a phone.
You distinctly hear like 9 gunshots.
Yeah, how about you just go?
Right. I mean, like, there's a madman
pass it
running
on.
around there, out there somewhere with a gun. Like, you figure
Right.
out, just like, let somebody know.
Because it feels like they're like, too bad if only someone could do something about that. Like, you could.
And then we see Shara, the ex-wife, say, who gets a 911 call with gunshots and doesn't move on it? Who does that?
Good point.
You know, right?
Like,
yeah.
They screwed up. The cops screwed up a lot here.
Yes.
And like everyone admits it. So 4 days since Lorenzen's disappearance, and the news breaks that he's missing because
Yes.
his mother filed a missing persons report.
This is where they ping where that cell phone call came in.
Yeah.
This is where we learned the call came from what is called the Callus Cutoff area.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's like an area of town. But then it takes them 10 days to send cadaver dogs to the location.
Yeah, so 10 days since Lorenzen's disappearance, they do a major search of the area.
Some of the best cadaver search dogs in this region were involved in the grid search. And they quickly came across the remains of what we now know to be Lorenzen Wright.
They come across like the remains of Lorenzen Wright pretty quickly.
He was there for days, right? And like, everyone's just destroyed.
We see the stain on the ground where they found his body. Number one, it's really hard to look at.
Yeah.
Number two, it really takes up this was a big man. It takes up a huge area.
So his mother, Deborah, and she's very present on the news back then. Like,
Yeah.
she's sitting here with us now, but she was always, the squeaky wheel.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The squeaky wheel gets the oil or whatever. Like, you keep cases in the public eye, and she was doing that a lot. But at the same time, she's saying, I didn't even want to live anymore. And,
No.
and why would she?
She also tells the story about how she found out that he was dead. And this, to me, it was so embodied what everybody is saying about Lorenzen. He bought her a bedspread that was too big for her own washing machine, which means he bought her an enormous bed and then bought her the bedding for it. And the bedding was so big she couldn't wash it at home.
And like, here comes the new washer and dryer delivered.
Exactly. So she's at the laundromat washing her bedding because her son bought her the biggest bed with the biggest bedding. And that's when that's where the cop finds her to tell her that, and she said,
his police friend, Dennis, came and found me. When I saw his face down, I knew my baby was gone.
She could just see by the look on his face
Of course.
that the news was what it was going to be.
And they were so close, because she says, like, she wants to walk the path that Lorenzen must have walked, because she says, we were so close, like, maybe he'd be able to tell me something.
We see her doing it. We see her go, so Dennis, the friend, tells her he's dead. This is where we found the body. She runs down there. We see the footage of her on the news running to the area where the body was found.
Yeah. And then the documentary does a very powerful on-screen text thing, because it goes from Lorenzen, like X amount of days missing, and now it says 16 days since Lorenzen's murder, and the on-screen text fades from missing into the word murder.
I gotta tell you, like, this series is really, we've done another episode of this, right?
We did the Girls Gone Wild one.
Yeah.
We've done a few episodes
Rich
of
and
this.
Shameless is really, really well made.
Yeah, it's weird because it kind of gets into a little salacious. Like, I don't like the title of the episode. I don't like the opening credits.
Yeah.
But, like, a lot of the family members are here. Like, the victim's story seems to be told from the people closest to it, which I like. But it's a little like, we can tone it down a little bit.
And they do spend a lot of time here, like, showing us Lorenzen's memorial service. And they hold the memorial service at the arena. Like,
where the Memphis Grizzlies played their games, and it's packed.
You cannot overstate how famous Lorenzen was in Memphis. He was, like, the most famous person who lived there.
He was more than a hometown hero because he was also, like, inspiring people out in the world as well. But this was his community.
And it's like, who would do, they say it's like also, it's a very sad story, but it's also a real life true crime mystery because who would do this? He was the most generous person in town. Everybody loved him. And then the mom says, who would kill a person who has 6 kids? Now, I said earlier, he has 7 kids. We'll learn that one of his children died of sudden infant death syndrome, but he's got 6 living children.
Yeah. So the cops are going through the forensics and the evidence to try to piece some of this together.
Yeah.
Lorenzen Wright died from multiple gunshot wounds, 2 to the head, 2 to the chest, and 1 to the forearm.
He still had jewelry on. He still had an expensive watch. It's not a robbery. Okay, now what happened?
And he had his expensive jewelry on. He had his fancy watch. So they're like, okay, this wasn't a robbery. Like, this was personal.
Yeah. And they also say there were 2 types of bullets found at the crime scene. There was a small caliber and a medium caliber, which indicates there could have been 2 shooters.
Yeah.
Or like one shooter using 2 different
or
guns.
3, or like there were multiple people at the scene of this murder.
So was it a professional hit? Like, what the hell happened here? And they're saying, like, we got to look at who would stand to gain the most from Lorenzen being dead.
So now we jump to 3 months after the murder. Deborah's here playing with her dog, and I think her dog's name is Mike.
It is Mike.
Right? Because that's what the captions say. And she's like, come here, Mike. And I'm like, Mike? I love it.
I was at the dog park once, and I met Lori Metcalf. If you don't know who that is,
you
that's
meet everyone at the park.
I didn't recognize her at first, but then I was like, oh my God, that's Aunt Jackie from Roseanne, who I'm obsessed with.
Yeah.
And she did not want to talk to me, but then I won her over. And we were just like, it was just me and her and Daisy. So it was me and Daisy and our dog and her dog. Her dog's name is Colleen.
Perfect. I love that.
Colleen.
I love it.
I was like, that is the most amazing dog's name.
Yeah.
And she's like, why? And I was like, I can't explain it. I don't know. I don't know why.
Because it's great.
It's like if your dog's name was Deb.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a name.
Joanne.
You know? Come here, Mike. I'm like, what?
I know.
Deborah is here to tell us about the Lorenzen and Shara story.
Yeah.
So she was still in college. He was still in high school when they met. I get the sense that he was like an older senior in high school. And
Here's
he was,
hoping.
18. I mean, I was 18 when I went to college. So
yeah.
I know seniors in high school can be 18. I don't know.
Yes.
Anyway, they were in love from the beginning. They had kids right away. They have Loren, and then they have Lorenzen Jr.
I know. It's just like, I know families do that. It's just like, there are other names too. You know what I mean?
Fucking Kardashians. That's what it always makes me think of.
Wait, what are their names?
It's just all K names.
Oh, like Kim and Chloe and
Courtney. But we learned their kids were the glue that held everything together in this family.
Yes.
Family first, basketball second, right?
Yep.
So it's 2001.
He was 25 when he came home to pay for the Grizzlies. The whole Memphis was ecstatic. It's like our hometown boy is back.
I didn't even think there would even be a team here in Memphis. We always dreamed about having a basketball team.
He embraced and loved being the hometown hero.
He's doing what he loves in his hometown. Like, he's super generous. Like, things couldn't get any better, right? And he also, like, just to make a note, he wasn't just buying homes and cars for his friends and family, which is great.
Yes.
But he was, like, starting basketball camps. He was, there's a story where he was literally giving people the shirt off his back.
Yeah, like, that's great. But he's also doing, like, I think the mom is saying he's too generous. Like, he's, like, $55 million is a lot. But, like, after agents' fees and taxes and whatever, like, that money is not going to be there forever. And he's doing things like every year he'd put a new diamond in his wife's ring.
Well, the point is, Deborah's like, yeah, he was generous. But when it came to Shara, it was different. Because Deborah, Lorenzen's mom, says she needed everyone to know she was a millionaire's wife. And I'm like, oh, Deborah's not a fan. Noted.
No, and like, we're going to get a clip of her from the news later where she literally says she says to camera, my watch is a car, my ring is a house.
Woof.
And like, to say that out loud on TV, like,
very bad.
oh my, yeah.
But like, what Deborah is saying, that like this was all kind of Shara's idea. Like every year Shara got a new diamond in her ring, and every year Shara redid the furniture. And I'm like, money aside, isn't that just a hassle? Don't you just want to like have your house done and then live in it?
Yep.
But Deborah's making the point that like she just is bored and loved spending her son's money.
Yes.
That's what Deborah's saying here.
Yep.
Very, very clearly.
And it's funny because when she was talking about them being young and in love, it seemed like she kind of liked her. And then like as soon as we got to this part, I was like, oh no.
Deborah does not mince words.
She is on the wrong side of Deborah, which is not the right side to be on.
No. No. Like I said, don't mess with Deborah.
Don't fuck with Deborah.
So it's 2003. Lorenzen is in his second year with the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah.
And disaster strikes.
Lorenzen was playing, I think, his second year with the Memphis Grizzlies. When their daughter, Sierra, she died of a sudden infant death syndrome. The death of Sierra, I think it drew them apart. They both were out messing around. They both were out having affairs, and the last few years of their marriage was unhappy.
I truly, truly cannot imagine the horror of that.
And it destroyed him, and it destroyed their marriage, which is understandable.
Of
this
course.
is like a trauma and a sadness that no one...
It either brings you together and you survive it together, or it's going to rip you apart.
Yeah, and so we learned, they were both cheating on each other.
Yeah.
The last few years of their marriage were not happy ones.
No.
And 7 years after the death of Sierra in 2010, they finally divorce. And that's a long time to be in a bad situation.
Totally. But like we learned that the last night that he was seen alive, he was at her house. So like things seemed to be okay between them.
Well, when Deborah says when they got divorced, she's like, it was over, bye. And I'm like, Deborah.
I know.
Like,
I know.
What do you know? We will find out.
We learn about their divorce settlement. He had to pay her $26,000 a month in alimony and child support.
Right.
Oh my God.
And Lorenzen moved on. He moved to Atlanta. He was happy. He was sort of like putting that, closing that chapter, and yet still paying $26,000.
We also learned that the money isn't going as far. Like he's not playing basketball anymore.
He retired.
He retired. They say he made some bad financial investments. He had given away so much of the money. Like money is starting to maybe be an issue.
Because of course he still had money, but he wasn't bringing any more in.
Right.
And then when you set this precedent of like Lorenzen will pay for it, Lorenzen will buy, and he doesn't want to say no, it's like you don't have that influx coming in anymore. It's much easier when he's a superstar getting paid X amount. Like, what's a car?
Well, because
but now
he was buying cars for his friends. Can you imagine?
So like we hear about this all the time. Like it happens with people who are super successful, really young, like celebrities, like athletes, musicians.
And especially people who don't come from anything.
Right. So it's 4 months since Lorenzen's murder, and there's a lot of pressure to solve this, especially because they screwed up that 911 call so badly.
Yes.
And everybody knows about it.
And there's rumors going around now.
Some of the stories that were coming out about drug related or he owed money here, you don't know how much of it is true, but it didn't sound right with me just from the Lorenzen I knew.
Shara Wright has told Collierville police Lorenzen Wright left her home carrying a box of drugs.
Shara tells the investigators that Lorenzen left her house that night carrying, quote, a box of drugs, and Deborah, the mom, is not about it.
She puts a stop to that right now.
Yes.
She goes on the news and sets the record straight. And she's like, excuse me, he worked incredibly hard to get where he is. And she says, don't knock him down like that.
No, and then we learn that Shara, obviously Shara is the last person to see him alive. So she's interviewed several times by the cops.
And they didn't have a great relationship for a while.
Right.
And now,
And she's living on his money and she loves to spend it. Shara told the cops that, quote, armed men came to her house looking for him. And she's like, is that anything? Could that have anything to do with what happened to him and why no one has seen him?
None of this makes sense. And Deborah cannot understand why the cops aren't investigating Shara, the ex. Because Deborah's like, she's lying.
Trench coats and guns, Deborah says.
And the, quote, box of drugs.
Right.
So Deborah's like, look, Shara is lying. She's not making any sense. She was the last person to see him alive. She would benefit to get all the money instead of in $25,000 increments. Like, let's go.
And also, there's no more new money coming in. Shara is literally the only person who, is obsessed with the money and it probably wants to get it before he spends it all.
Right.
And by spends it all, I mean gives it all away to good causes.
Exactly. And, starts basketball camps for kids.
Exactly.
So we jump to 2014, 4 years after the murder. No arrests, no new evidence, no charges, no leads.
I don't understand. The police already fucked this up so bad with the 911 call. The answer seems obvious to me, right? It seems like they're not looking.
And Deborah's not stopping. Deborah, the mom, she's on the news and she tells us, she goes, it wasn't just a cold case. It was like a block of ice. It was frozen.
Yes.
And she says, I couldn't let it stay frozen. I had to do something.
Yeah.
Every year I had him a public birthday party and a visual at the FedEx Forum and made T-shirts every year. I want to keep his name alive. I want people to know my son is gone. Keep praying for me. Keep praying so we get to the end of this. I can't keep this the rest of my life. Something needs to be done.
she's keeping people talking about it, which is what you have to do.
Yes. And then we get a video, like an old video of Lorenzen talking about how much he loves dogs.
Yep.
I feel like they put that in just for you.
Thanks, everybody. Hi, Mike, the dog.
Hi, Mike.
So Deborah.
Hey, Colleen.
Hey, Colleen. Hi, Fiona. Hi, Golden. Hi, everybody.
Aww. I dragged him down the hallway again this morning. And that's like, he loves being dragged down the hallway. For people who don't know, Golden will throw himself on the ground every morning when I take him out because the carpet is like ridged in such a way that
like
it scratches his tummy.
And he wears a harness. So
You're not
pulling him by his
He
neck.
loves it. He rolls around. He flips himself over.
Nice little massage.
It's his favorite part of the day.
He's going through a little car wash. Cutie. So Deborah is like, we got to make some moves. And Deborah has her sights set on Shara.
Yes.
Because Shara is the only one with something to gain. If Lorenzen died, she gets all the insurance money. And she got the insurance money. Let me tell you this. Shara spent almost $1 million in 10 months, $973,000. That money was for her kids. She bought a new mansion, an Escalade, a Mercedes, a Lexus, and property in Arkansas.
Can I ask you a question? Who needs 3 cars? I get that they
Who
have
needs
like
property in Arkansas?
Well, but like they've got 6 kids. I get it, but they can all fit in the Escalade. What are you doing with a Mercedes and a Lexus?
Right. Because this wasn't about her kids. It was about, I believe what Deborah's saying. She wanted to be the millionaire's wife. She just wanted to brag about it. Because you have 3 cars? She loves that you just asked that.
Right.
Because she's like, I have 3 cars.
But it's also like $1 million. You got to raise these kids for the rest of, until they're all 18, like $1 million. I know that sounds like a ton of money, and
she doesn't care.
She doesn't care. It's all for her.
And Deborah is like screaming from the rooftops, like, hello.
Yes.
So Deborah keeps telling people that Shara was involved, but no one was taking her seriously because the cops are like, great, like, show us the credible evidence. Like, we understand what you're saying, but where is the evidence here?
And I love that Deborah's like, I'm not going to show you the evidence, but Shara might.
So 2015, Shara writes a book called Mr. Tell Me Anything. And I'm like, I'm sorry, was If I Did It taken? Oh, it was.
I know. And I gotta tell you, like, writing, so like, it's a book that is about, quote, a philandering and physically abusive athlete based on Lorenzen Wright.
So Shara's name is Shara Wright Robinson. The woman in the book is Sharon Robertson, not Robertson. I copied and pasted the synopsis.
Give it to us, GP.
Falling in love with the same man of her dreams over and over again was not a difficult task for Sharon Robertson. She had cherished Mr. Tell Me Anything so long that her fragile heart didn't even know how to love him. After 6 years, the couple settles into a troubled marriage. Despite the inherited challenges of parenting and relating to their obvious differences, they continue on. With the constant chaos surrounding women, new acquaintances, family, and greed, their efforts would soon appear to ultimately be in vain. Combined with the newfound lies and deception, she finds herself questioning his commitment. Again, a little nugget of truth, right? They were cheating on each other.
Yep.
It continues. Her belief in true love propels her to fight for what she has envisioned from the start. But despite her nurturing efforts, corruption and deceit took their stable places in his life. A breaking point is reached. She makes a life-altering decision. Does it work out for her for good? Did all of his lies finally catch up to him? Or would he or she pay the ultimate price?
Now, I gotta tell you, having done it, writing a book is really hard. Like, did she have a ghostwriter or did she do this herself?
I'm assuming she had help.
Because it sounds like an interesting read.
Yeah, and it seems like she's writing the story of her life too.
Exactly.
Because then she writes this shitty book.
Yep.
Then she announces that she was planning to release a sequel where the main character, Lorenzen Wright, that's based on Lorenzen Wright, would be killed. This is If I Did It all over again.
Right, and then Officer Darren is like, which was odd because she was always a person of interest. Like,
narcissists are going to narcissist. I don't know what to tell you.
Sure, we are looking at you, girl.
So, cut to June 30th, 2015. She does an interview to promote her stupid book.
Oh my God.
And they ask her directly, did you have anything to do with Lorenzen's murder or his disappearance? And she just starts monologuing.
Her answer is unreal. She says,
I'm a mother. I'm a wife, I'm an author, and the police should find his killer. For my name to be even in the same sentence or something like that, I've never been in any type of trouble or anything. I'm a mother, an author, and a wife.
Does she even deny it? Does she even say no?
Exactly. I mean, she does then say, like, the fact that my name would even be mentioned, and then she cuts herself off, and I'm like,
I'm a wife, I'm an author,
and she doesn't say she didn't do it, because best friend Michael is like, any innocent person would just be like, of course I had nothing to do with this.
Right?
What are you talking about?
And my heart is broken every day,
yes.
you know.
I look in the faces of my 6 living children, and I have
try to provide for them the best I could, but meanwhile, I'm buying a mansion and an Escalade and a Lexus and a Mercedes.
Oh my God.
But it doesn't end there, because now her story starts to, what they say, change and evolve, because it always does.
She's saying, I never never said there was a box of drugs. And if there was a box of drugs, I had nothing to do with it. I had no knowledge of it. And she's like, the box of drugs did not come out of Shara Wright's mouth.
She's like, it was insinuated and created for certain purposes. And I'm like, then elaborate.
Right.
Then what were they? Don't just talk in circles and monologue and give me word salad. What are you saying?
Because nobody wants you to be the killer less than like everybody here. We need somebody to raise these fucking kids.
Right. So stop talking about it. Also keep talking about it.
Yeah.
Stay stupid. Write the book.
Stay stupid.
But like, I hate when people do this where it's like, yeah, well, certain circumstances and insinuations. Then what?
Right.
Then tell me what the truth is.
Right.
But you can't.
She's in her artist studio in the back working on her next novel.
Ignoring her kids who miss their father.
Who are just like grieving in the living room playing Xbox all day.
6 years after Lorenzen's murder, someone comes forward and is just like, hey, I know who killed Lorenzen Wright. And everyone falls off their chair and loses their mind.
Because this is the thing. Like, you can't, like, everyone stays stupid, like we always say. If you commit murder with other people, someone is going to say something to somebody.
Right. So they start investigating this lead. And this investigation leads to Jimmy Martin, who is who?
Shara Wright's cousin, who was in jail for killing his female partner. He named Shara Wright as the person that planned and conspired to kill Lorenzen.
Oh, Shara Wright always planned and conspired to kill Lorenzen. Like, just like that. I mean, what does the guy have to lose? He's in prison for murder anyway.
And then Jimmy's story is that, Shara's story is that Lorenzen is planning to kill me and I need to beat him to the punch.
That's a lie.
Just go to the cops if that's true.
Right,
Shara.
that's a lie.
And I want to say here, like, she's talking a lot about domestic violence, and like everybody else is saying we knew nothing about that. That didn't seem like the kind of relationship that they had. There was no like evidence that anybody ever saw of that.
Mm-hmm.
We only hear about that from Shara.
And like, we've had stories before that like not all abuse, you can't see abuse,
Yes,
like not all
100%.
abuse leaves bruises. But there was also she was like spending all his money.
Right.
And everything seemed great until she just wanted more money.
I'm not saying I don't believe her. I'm just saying this documentary doesn't show us any evidence that that was the case.
Exactly.
That's all I'm saying.
So now Jimmy tells the cops, I was there when she was planning it. She was planning it with this guy named Billy Ray Turner. And I'm like, right, but Jimmy, you were involved in this too, because who discusses a murder plot with someone who isn't also involved in the murder plot?
Of course.
Right?
And also, why are you coming forward out of the clear blue sky?
So let's talk about Billy Ray Turner and Shara.
Yeah.
They went to the same church. Billy did some lawn work for Shara, and they were sleeping together. So Deborah, can I please?
Please, this is great.
Deborah is here. Deborah is Lorenzen's mother, and she's like,
I was shocked when I found out he was a yard boy, Lorenzen's yard boy. But I was surprised at what happened between him and her, because what happened between him and her happened between her and a lot of hymns.
Now, let me say something. We do not slut shame on this podcast, but that was poetry.
It was.
That's poetry.
Yeah.
No slut shaming, but like Deborah's part of this. Stop writing books about,
I know.
Please.
I know.
So Jimmy Martin, the cousin, was not there for the murder, but he's like, I did help clean up the scene of the crime. It's like, you were there.
Not only did he help clean up the crime scene, he then drove Billy Turner, one of the gunmen, to a place called Walnut, Mississippi, where they threw one of the murder weapons into a lake.
And then, let's not forget, Jimmy went and killed his girlfriend or wife because he's now in prison for murder.
Exactly.
Like, this guy's not really holding back from the trouble here. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
He's trying to make himself seem a little bit better. He was there for all of it.
Of course. And Officer Darren is like, wait a second, the murder weapon is in that lake. This changes everything. And he says, we had a great reputation with the FBI. The FBI has one of the best evidence recovery dive teams in the world.
And I'm like, cool story, but could that gun really be there after 7 years?
I mean, where's it going to go?
Well, apparently, yes, everyone.
Right.
Because it doesn't take more than 45 minutes for the guy to find the gun they're looking for. And the gun, in someone's infinite wisdom, stay stupid, everyone, was in an airtight Tupperware container.
Why? Like, why? People are so dumb.
So
why would you do that?
It, helped protect it for 7 years, and it, stayed in one place.
I know.
Thanks.
I know. Why? It would never occur to me to put a gun in a Tupperware.
Thank you for doing that, idiots. Stay stupid. So, it's a 9mm. The shell casing from that gun matches the ones found at the murder scene. This is the murder weapon.
Right.
So they're like, okay, so Jimmy is definitely a murderer and a shitty guy, but this one thing he told us is true, so let's see what else we can find.
Because Deborah's really excited, but the cops tell her just because we have the gun doesn't mean we have the case. They got a lot of work to do to connect the gun to the murder.
So they get a wiretap on that Billy guy's phone and on Shara's phone.
You have to assume if you commit murder that your phone is immediately wiretapped the next day. Why are you not assuming that?
And I guess because it's 7 years later.
Yes.
But because it's 7 years later, and they're probably not talking about it as much as they were anymore, they do like that phrase where you're like tickle the wire.
Yeah.
So they release the fact that the
What?
gun.
I've never heard that in 7.5 years we've been making this
We've
podcast.
absolutely learned. They talk about it with the mob a lot. Because,
tickle the wire.
Because
Remember?
what they do is they're trying to get people to talk on the phone, and it works.
Yeah.
We began to listen to their conversations and decided, okay, we need to release the fact that this murder weapon was found.
Police say they found the gun they believed was used to kill Wright 7 years ago.
It worked. Sheriff contacted Billy saying that they need to talk. They need to get together.
They release the fact that the gun has been found, hoping that they'll call each other about it, and that's exactly what happens.
Can we just take a quick pause? Because you remember back in the early days when you said juke the stats, and I'd never heard that before.
It's from The Wire.
Is that right?
Yeah, and that's where I learned. I mean, that's like a phrase, but it's just, yeah.
All right. And tickle the wire. All right.
Yeah, it's like... Which is, this is a perfect example of it.
Right.
They're releasing something to get people to say something
right.
on The Wire. So 7 years later, they're like, shit. And that's what happens, right? So Shara immediately calls Billy, says they need to talk. She flies into Memphis from wherever she's living. And I'm like, that's a lot for a casual conversation with a friend.
Well, you don't want to do it on the phone. I mean, I guess now she's thinking, like, Shara, if you're flying in because you think your phone might be tapped, like, they know where you went.
Right, but
they
like,
heard you make the plan.
Shara, it doesn't matter because your phone is tapped. So now they know that, like, where the meetup spot is, and they're coming to get you.
I know.
You idiot.
The look of disgust on your face.
Like, and you too, Billy Ray Cyrus, whatever the fuck your name is. Like,
he came in like a wrecking ball.
Her voice is unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
So Dolly Parton's her godmother.
Is that right?
Isn't that the coolest thing?
God damn it.
She like grew up with Dolly Parton, like imparting wisdom on her on a daily basis.
It worked.
Miley Cyrus.
You did it, Dolly.
So anyway, the cops set up surveillance. We see the photos of the meetup.
Yes.
Also, Shara Googled something like, are there still fingerprints on a gun after it's been in a lake for 7 years? Like, that's basically what she Googled.
It really, literally is. Like, but like, everyone is so, go to the
Keep it up.
library. Just go to the library.
No, they'll get you at the library too. Doesn't matter. We're coming for you. If you do anything online, it is tracked, it is traced. I don't care how anonymous you think you are, baby girl.
You had to go to the card catalog.
Like,
get a book on whether or not guns can still have fingerprints on them after 7 years.
That's tracked too.
Okay.
It's 2024.
You know what?
Just
don't kill people.
We got you.
Just don't commit murder, and you never have to look it up.
Do you know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
So the cops were also able to track Shara's phone back to the night of the murder. And we saw that like all of their phones were being used where the murder took place. Like we have them.
Yeah.
We got them.
Yeah.
So it's December 4th, 2017, and Deborah is praying in church. And she's basically like,
I'm in church on the floor. I'm like, Jesus, please help them get Cheryl Robinson. That's what I said on the floor at my church. The next day, I woke up, they had Billy. Thank God. But God. That was God doing that. He did that for me.
the next day, Billy Turner was arrested, so I'm pretty good at praying.
Yeah, Billy Turner's arrested. He's held on $1 million bond. He's indicted for first-degree murder. And then Shara is arrested in California. She is charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and attempted murder.
And we remember our pastor friend, Dr. Bill Atkins. He's like, Shara had a history of manipulating men. Apparently, some men found her desirable. I don't know. Not my cup of tea.
When Deborah finds out that Shara's been arrested, she goes, evil, 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 the wicked witch of the South.
Right?
Oh, my.
But now we learn, just like real quick, apparently before the murder, these two tried to kill Lorenzen once before. They
my God.
The murder was not the first time they were trying to kill him, because they went to Lorenzen's house, this Billy Ray Turner and Jimmy Martin.
A month before the actual murder.
To kill him, but Lorenzen wasn't home. His best friend Mike from earlier in the episode was home, and they were like, wrong guy.
Yeah,
Mike
well,
was like,
Michael,
what? He's like napping on the couch.
He's sleeping on the couch. He's like, literally, if Lorenzen had been home and they had killed him, they would have had to have killed me too, because they couldn't have left a witness.
Exactly.
Like, and I'm sorry, guys, why are you doing this?
And what do you think's gonna happen? Like, you're just gonna make it like a robbery?
Right.
It's gonna make it look like a robbery?
Because, like, that didn't work when you actually pulled it off and you left his watch and you left, like, you know what I mean?
And you put the weapon in an airtight container and put it in the
Oh my God,
lake.
stay stupid.
So back to 2017, Shara has a plea hearing and she's pleading guilty to facilitation of murder.
Well, because they say at this point, like, Shara realizes she's facing the rest of her life in prison. So she makes a plea deal.
Right.
And we see the judge say to her, like,
the lawyers asked the court to advance the case today for today's docket, indicating that there's a possibility that a resolution has been reached in lieu of trial. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. On count one of the indictment, Shara Wright will enter a plea of guilty to the offense of facilitation to commit murder in the first degree.
In lieu of a trial, you're pleading guilty to facilitation to commit murder in the first degree. And she agrees to a 30-year sentence because she'll be eligible for parole in 9 years.
So she's pleading guilty to putting the murder together, but not the actual murder. And Deborah's not happy about this.
No, because we're going to learn that Shara was there. She pulled the trigger. And I'm like, I understand, or maybe I don't know if I understand or not. Why does the family have no say here?
I don't know.
Like, they're just trying to save the money of a trial. Like, she did this. Like, she should go to jail forever.
Yeah.
Why does she get to decide to do a plea deal that's going to have her out in 9 years?
Right.
And the family's not consulted?
Yeah, I don't know.
This is the hometown hero. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. So it's 2022 now, 12 years after the murder. No one has been convicted of the actual murder of Lorenzen Wright.
Yeah.
But Billy Ray Turner is on trial for Lorenzen Wright's murder. And Jimmy Martin, Shara's cousin, testifies.
Yep.
And he's like, look, Shara and Lorenzen met Billy on some back road. Like, Shara led him to this
his
horrible
death.
thing.
And they both shot him. You hear the gunshots on the 911 call.
So horrible.
And they asked Jimmy, like,
we shouldn't have heard this 911 call.
As many times as we did.
We should
I know.
not have heard. This was really heartbreaking and someone's final devastating, terrifying moments. We should not have heard this.
Because we do hear him say help.
Yeah.
And this is the part where I don't understand why we never get told that, like, they tracked the call to Lorenzen's phone. Like, why do we never get that piece of information? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But we learned that Shara was one of the trigger people. Remember, there was 2 different bullet casings found.
The 2-shooter theory from the top of the episode was right.
This is where Deborah, the mom, says, like, we know that Lorenzen was shot in the face. And I'm telling you, I don't care what anybody says.
I believe she had got her shot in his face. Because she always talked about how good he looked and women stay looking at him. I don't care what y'all say. Billy didn't shoot him in the face. That was personal. Cheryl shot him in the face. She was right there with him.
Shara was the one who shot him in the face because she was so jealous of all the other women who found him so handsome.
Yeah, and because he'd moved on, remember? He moved to Atlanta.
Right.
He wasn't...
Like, she killed the father of their children, knowing, I mean, she had to know she was going to get caught.
She had to.
At the very least, she was going to maybe add a couple of years to spend the insurance
writing
money.
that book?
I mean, how much do you have to not love your kids to kill their father knowing you're going to get caught and go to prison for the rest of your life?
Yeah. I mean, she's a monster.
Monster.
So Billy Ray Turner is found guilty of first-degree murder, and he gets put away for life. And then, like, it's 2023, and Lorenzen's University of Memphis jersey is being retired.
Yeah.
So, like, he's a legend, and by retiring that, he's going to, like, live on forever. That number is just always going to be his. And we get, like, this on-screen text, like, Billy Ray Turner still maintains his innocence. He's going to appeal. Shara Wright did not respond to their request to participate. Then we, like, go back to 2022, and Shara is begging for mercy at a parole hearing.
Yes.
Literally begging. And Deborah Wright is there, and we see her, like, stand up and argue back at Shara.
Yes.
Like, talking back to her. Like, Deborah, I love that. It's just, like, she's never going to let this go, and she shouldn't.
No, and it's where I always go. Like, if he had never become a famous basketball player, he never would have been rich, and he would still be alive.
I know. But, like, why should he not do the thing he's amazing
no.
at?
I'm just saying that, like, he lived his greatest dream, but like he doesn't get to be with his kids. I know. It always comes back to the kids for me. It's so hard. Like, when these people are like, I can't unsee that moment of Shara on the news saying, my watch is a car, my ring is a house. That's all she cared about.
She thinks in currency. She thinks in dollar amounts.
Like, you had 7 children with this man.
And you're buying mansions and property and 3 luxury cars. Like, what about your kids? Like,
6 of these kids are still alive and they don't have any parents now.
Like, are they hungry?
I know. Oh,
are you
my
even
God.
thinking about that, Shara? Like,
No.
do they have everything they need? Do they have their school supplies? Like, are they good?
So
I don't
rot
know.
in prison for the rest of your life. Goodbye.
But yeah, she's up for parole in 2027. Fuck you.
Bye.
Also, hi, Deborah. You're amazing.
You're amazing.
Thanks,
We love
thank you for being here and like telling us the story.
Oh, girl, we did. What is it?
So this is the murder of Lorenzen Wright, but it's an episode of that show, Rich and Shameless.
Yeah. Fam, join the Facebook group. We're doing watch parties for the episodes. Join Patreon, where we're doing cocktail classes and happy hours and drag bingo. You also get a full ad-free bonus episode every single week. There's over 400 to download a binge right this second. Tell them about Love Has Won.
We did Love Has Won. We're doing Love Has Won. It is a madness nightmare.
It is the cultiest. It is the weirdest, worst cult we've ever covered. It is so wild. It's the most requested doc of the year.
Yeah, I side googled, so I have updates that HBO did not tell us. So
oh my
stay tuned
God.
for that.
We're doing the Curious Case of Natalia Grace.
Yep.
We're going to dig into that.
Doing
We're doing
all 12 eps.
Twin Flames.
We're doing The Lost Women of Highway 20. Thank you, Octavia Spencer.
Yeah, we did everything from The Staircase to Serial Season 1 to
Bad
Making
Vegan
a Murderer.
and Tiger King and Millions. All the wild crimes.
Yep. It's all there. Patreon.com/truecrimeobsessed.
Yep.
Girl, what are we doing next?
We are doing the murder of Christian Aguilar, which is an episode of that show Death in the Dorms.
Oh, yes. That's a great show.
It's very well done, very victim-centric. So that's next.
All right, stay tuned for the trailer for that, fam. And then our funny and hilarious outtakes where I talk more about not knowing which is baseball, which is basketball.
It is a little bit of a tongue twister. Like when you're reading it, it's just a couple letters off.
Totally, but very different sports.
Very.
Okay.
Very.
We love you.
We love you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
What should have been a great time of life and a great 4 years, it just became tragedy.
You know, I want to find him. When he's still alive. I'm not going home until I find my son.
Christian has essentially gone dark.
We didn't find anything. We found no evidence whatsoever.
It really was just a terrible story. It was a harrowing thing that happened to our campus community.
All my energy was focused on the search and finding Chris.
We were feeling unsafe. The freshman has gone missing. What is being done?
Thought that was in the news, that was in the movies, but that's not the reality. The reality is there's tragedy out there and it can happen.
What's the
There's
really
Courtney.
rich one? Oh, Courtney. Is Chloe the really rich one?
Aren't they all the really rich
They
one?
are, but she's like the young one who's like the model and the makeup person and all of that.
I know there's
Chris.
There's Chris.
Yeah.
Kylie.
Kylie, that's what I'm thinking of.
God, there's one more. It's gonna kill me.
Oh, no.
Wait, it's Kendall.
Oh, yeah. Oh, maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. Maybe Kendall's the really rich one.
They're all really rich.
I know.
We're splitting hairs here. I can't believe we're talking about the Kardashians for this long. Fuck them.
I know. Not that I'm a basketball scholar. I've just learned there's a Hall of Fame. But like,
It's the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Which is the one with the bat?
You're killing me. Because I know you know the answer. Rugby.
Yeah.